Welcome. The Enigma Code DC podcast is back. Man, how long has it been? A year and a half? Almost 2 years?
Yep.
I first want to let y'all know God is real.
Amen.
Had an accident last week. It's been a week.
It's been about a week. Yeah.
Very, very fortunate and blessed to even be here.
Amen.
So, like I told my parents, my mother in New York, my faith has been restored. Always had faith. Maybe it's a little bit wavering. God is real. So I want to say that. My producer Fenix, you had a herring accident. You've been on the mend all summer. Have you even seen summer? Have you been outside?
No.
Nothing, huh?
I've been on the patio once or twice.
On the patio. Summer, I'm a little bit depressed because summer is over. But
you got at least to see a summer.
Yeah,
I've been looking at these walls.
I did, yeah. So it's been tough, right? But I'm so happy to be here. We're in a new studio. It's bigger. It's different. Hopefully the sound will be great. New location. We are representing DC. We're right outside of DC on the Maryland side of PG County. I have two esteemed guests today. I'm so excited. We get this thing going. I got my man all the way from North Carolina. Actually, if you go back even farther than that, New York City, Springfield, Massachusetts. It's been 30 years.
Yeah, about
30 years.
Yep.
I got my man, the General. I've been bugging him for years. He's been a supporter. He's been following. He's been on with Zoom, but I actually got him in the studio. All right, he's here. We're going to do this thing. I also got my man, Jack Frost. Just met this cat, but me and him bonded. We laugh, we joke, we clown. We got a lot of the same vision and things in common. Athlete. Good to go. Let's go. What we say we're doing today? 2024 election?
Yes, that's right.
What do y'all think?
Where do we begin? How does this man begin to even run for president? There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of concerns, political views.
Who's worse, Trump or Yahoo and
DeSantis? We're going to talk about both of them. Then we're going to talk about Biden, too. We're going to talk about Joey B.
Everything's on the table.
Yep.
Let's go back to 2020 election real quick. Let's just rewind for a second. Trump was supposed to win 2020 by a landslide. Everybody was depressed. Everything was lined up for this man to win, for him to be the president going into 2020 beyond. And me personally, I'm gonna read what caused his demise, but me personally, it was two miracles. It was two miracles that kept him from winning. The first one was COVID. His just lack of empathy, and Dr. Fauci was kind of running the point on that. And I just remember Trump glaring at him. The lack of empathy on that, because people were dropping dead. We didn't know much about COVID. People were dropping like flies, and really, that wasn't a priority of his. So that was one downfall. And the second downfall of his was the George Floyd incident happened about the same time. I don't know if y'all follow clown Candace Owens. She's a black racist. Larry Elder, what's the guy's name? Officer Brandon Tatum show. They make they're racist, and they make their money by going over here and talking about people of color. That gives them a paycheck. They do it very well. So Candace Owens went on some rant. You make George Floyd a martyr, and had a 17-minute video, and Trump jumped on that. He said, George Floyd is looking down on us from wherever he's at. He said the economy is pumping right now. Just total ignorance. Those two factors right there, I think, are what Trump. Let me read to you what was said, and then I want to hear from you guys. It finally caught up to him, the lies, the outrageous boasts, the disorder, the disastrous management, the rants and raves, the race baiting, the predatory instincts and compulsion to dominate, all the things that made Donald Trump the ringmaster of the American political circus at the last election, compelled the majority of voters to drive him out of the tent.
Again, thanks for having me. My view on Donald Trump is that he just feels untouchable. I'm glad that Georgia, New York, Florida is starting to crack down on his nonsense. I just wonder how does he become running for presidency. But I mean, he could get the popular votes. I know he has a lot of following, but
75 million
I
followers.
believe that that's all good. We've seen that once before when Hillary Clinton was running. But as long as he doesn't win the electoral votes, that's what we really have to.
And a lot of people, that electoral vote was the first time that came into play.
I hate
She
it.
beat him with
Should
physical
be populist
votes,
vote.
but with electoral vote she lost. So that was an education for the whole country, because I don't think many of us were versed in what the electoral vote actually really meant.
Right.
Good point.
Right.
Good point.
Well, let me just
General.
say this. Go back to 2020 when you started. You said I agree with you on both those points, that the George Floyd incident, as well as COVID, is what caused his demise. That was his demise. It wasn't the race baiting and misinformation that was spreading. It was the COVID, the deaths from COVID, and his response to COVID, and then the fact that he said he wanted to downplay it. You cannot downplay a pandemic, and people are losing their lives. So because he wanted to downplay it, and because of his reaction to the George Floyd incident, and his handling of the George Floyd incident, I think that's what lost voters' confidence. I think that was the number one thing, that those are the two things that caused him to fall. So I agree with that. Now
Because he was supposed to win the re-election by a
He would
landslide.
have won. If
He
COVID
was set up on every poll to win.
Right. If COVID had not happened, he would have won. He would have won the 2020 election. I believe that.
Why do you believe that? What?
I believe that because he still had 75 million followers following him, and even the independents. See, what happened was when this incident with the COVID and George Floyd incident, the independents and women moved over to the left. And because they moved over to the left, that actually caused him to lose the vote. Because remember, think of how close this vote was. Biden only won by a few thousand votes in each electoral college that he won. So if you take away the independents, and if you take away the women and add them over to that, he would have won with easy. He would have won by in a landslide victory. If you take away the independents and you take away the women, the fact that those two things happened took the independents and the women over to the left. And that's why he lost by a very narrow margin. So when you think of a man who's a compulsive liar, a racist, he's lawless, he's corrupt, and he does not care anything about democracy or the Constitution. When you have a man like that in office and he still almost win, that says something more about the country and the way we think. The spiritual and moral depravity that is overcoming America right now is really, it's alarming, because this man is still in the lead for the Republican nomination right now as we speak.
Do you believe that Trump winning the presidency opening doors for anybody to run for president? You don't have to have any criteria, or should you have a background of credentials, or
In politics, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should you?
Yeah, I think you should.
I think you should, but because of the way the laws are in this country, because of the Constitution, people have a right to run, no matter what, even if they have experience or inexperience. That's what separates us from other countries, from third world countries. You can run for office. Anybody in this room can run for office. If you get enough votes where people sign up saying that, you can run for, I don't remember the amount of votes that you have to get to even run into office, or to run for any type of legislation. There's a certain number of votes you have to get, number of names you have to get. But that's what separates us from third world countries, is that we have a right to be able to run for presidency, even if you have no experience in government.
But I feel like that's a catch-22, because I feel like you shouldn't, even though you have a right to vote, you still don't have a right to run the country if you don't have any experience. So what if I want to throw my hat? I think Kanye West had his name in the electoral vote. And what if those votes could have swayed to Biden or to President Trump's candidacy? So I just feel like you should have some credentials, but also, how can you, like you said, how can you not say somebody else that hasn't had credentials can't be able to take on the job of running the country? I mean, I know that now they're hiring kids that play video games to run traffic controls in the world now, because of the multitasking. So it's a different time we're living in right now.
Speaking of that, what y'all both said, let's talk about Joe Biden for a second. I personally like Joe Biden. All that racial stuff that was allowed to happen under the last presidency is not here during this presidency, or if it is, it's been suppressed like it's always been.
My
Biden-
issue with him is his health. He shouldn't have run.
He's very old, and Trump keeps throwing that out there. Trump is like a couple years younger than Biden. But my thing with Biden is, I'm a registered Democrat. I like Biden. Voted for him. Going to vote for him again. Biden's policies are considered soft. So I am very, very worried about what he's going to do in the next election. If you look on Las Vegas sports betting, because they bet on everything, he's a plus 175 to win the next election. I don't see how, because he's just here, and you got candidates under him that are building up steam. You know, I don't see him moving. Like it was a miracle that Trump didn't get reelected and Biden got in because of the 2 instances we talked about.
Right.
I think they had a direct correlation on him not getting reelected. But
Well, Biden,
you know, war is good for the economy. I don't want war, but I'm saying something. The policies are soft. They talk about him like a dog. You know what I mean? And I can't. I'm gonna defend him always. He's my president, but I can't think it. I don't have a reason. Well, no, you're wrong because I haven't seen it yet.
sometimes I feel like we also have to give Biden the benefit of the doubt. Also, let's see what he inherited. He inherited this mess from the previous president, but also you got to question his leadership as well, because he ran his presidency runoff of student loans, and I'm a recent graduate not too long ago, and received
What school?
Elizabeth City State University,
You
CIAA.
play sport out there?
Championship 2007 basketball men's championship. Shout out to North Carolina, but
HBCUs.
yeah, like student loans, Republicans shot that down with student loans, so it's just.
But see,
more
he's
facts.
still fighting that, and that could be his legacy.
That can.
But everybody in the United States didn't go to college.
Yeah.
So if all those farmers, Midwest, and all, if you didn't go to college, that doesn't mean nothing to you.
True.
You know what I mean? But like for me, when COVID started, everybody got free lunch, everybody got free breakfast at school. Me being an educator, there was no paper. Everybody got free lunch, breakfast, and you had the lunch to take home.
Okay.
My son had started kindergarten. He was like, all we did was eat.
That's good.
I said, son, you can say no. You don't got to accept all this stuff. That was wonderful, and I think that put the country back on a swivel. And the second thing, like you said, he's fighting for these student loans. That directly affects me. That is a game changer for me. That is legacy. If it pulls it off, it got shot down twice. It's back again, and it's looking good. It's going to happen. It should have happened decades ago.
We need to take care of this gun violence.
But we need more. He needs something else for legacy. Student loans is not enough for legacy because everybody didn't go to college. So you need something else.
I like you guys' optimism, but when you have a podcast, you're gonna have you have guests. Sometimes you're gonna have guests that disagree.
Absolutely.
We love
That's
it.
why we flew you in. Absolutely.
But I'm going to say this: I'm not as optimistic as both of you gentlemen are when it comes to Biden, when it comes to the student loan, as well as running for presidency. It says something about the country when your best candidates that you have on the right and on the left are old. One is lawless and corrupt, and the other one is elderly, and basically they're literally thinking he might not make it through a second term.
Yeah, I don't.
And those are your best candidates that you have in a nation like America. I think I like Joe Biden. I like his policies. I don't think he's tough enough, to be honest with you. Like you said, I don't believe he's tough enough, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if Trump had said, I'm gonna cancel $20,000 student loan debt, you think somebody would stop that? You think that the Republicans would be able to stop that? You think the Democrats would stop that? No, it would have went through. Joe Biden has not. He wants to be in the middle of the road, and being in the middle of the road when you got this current Republican Party, you can't be in the middle of the road.
No, I
you
agree.
cannot be. So because of the student loan debt, I don't think it's going to pass because they have the majority right now. The Republicans have the majority. And if we lose the White House as well, it's definitely not going to pass. Ron DeSantis right now, if it was Ron DeSantis
We're going to talk
running,
about him in a minute, too.
okay, if he was running against Biden, Biden would lose. I believe that with everything I got, I believe Biden would lose. Only because they don't want to elect Biden. And because they don't really want to elect Trump. If Trump runs, I believe that Biden can still beat him. But then look at where that leaves the country. We have a president that's over 80-something years old, and
Who's losing it?
who we're not sure where he is mentally, how fragile he is.
Look at the job, though. Look at the job. Every president we've had, the first 4 years of them running, their hair turned from whatever color was to white. It skipped gray. It went from whatever color it was, it jumped to white. So that is just a tremendous amount of stress. Lincoln, who's one of my favorites, I study him. He said, and they didn't even have the issues back then that they have now. Lincoln was so stressed out, they said they'd have a spread a mile long for dinner, and they said he had his favorite pocket knife on. He'd just be nibbling on an apple. He was just completely, so, the job, it's the job.
It's a stressful job.
I feel like we have I feel like we do have a candidate out there other than a Biden or a Trump. We have Governor Hogan that's out there that plays both the Republican and
Governor
Democrat.
Hogan, but see,
I like
he went
Hogan.
against Trump during COVID.
He don't
He
have
was
a-
Republican. He
don't
went
have a-
against Trump.
He don't have a good following. He's
No,
not a
and
good
I like
popular
him.
voter, but
If
he
I had to
knows how
vote for
run.
someone, I would vote for
He
him.
knows how
And if I voted Democrat and he won, I'd be able to sleep at night because
Yeah.
he is the only person I know, Governor Ben Hogan, shout out, that practices bipartisanship. That's his whole game. He's not like his Republicans or his Democrats. He's like, we working together.
Yeah.
Let's get the job done. He's the only one. And he was in a political race, but because he opposed Trump way back during COVID, I think that kind of hurt him a little bit.
Here's who I would go for: Gavin Newsom.
Okay.
Gavin Newsom is of California, right? Gavin Newsom, he's a handsome guy. He's well spoken. He won his re-election in California. I think that he would be a great candidate for the Democrats for president. Gavin Newsom of California. He's the only one that I would give my vote for outside of Joe Biden. Gavin Newsom. I think that he's young enough. I think he's eloquent. I think that he loves this country. I think he follows the Constitution. I think he would be a great candidate for president. But the reason why we won't select somebody else is fear. Fear of the unknown. If we put Gavin Newsom up, we're afraid he may lose to Trump. You see, so it's the fear of putting up another Democrat that we don't know is what caused people to turn away and they wouldn't vote. So and then when it comes to Republicans, their fear is putting another candidate up that nobody will vote for. Look at Chris Christie. Look at Chris Christie. Chris Christie, I think, will be a far better candidate than any Republican that they got right now, Chris Christie, but they won't vote for Chris Christie. You know why? Because Trump doesn't like him, and a lot of other Republicans on the
Trump
far
doesn't
right,
like anybody that stands alone.
and the people on the far right don't like him.
I'm amazed that Trump, how much power he has, and he's not even in office. He's not in the Congress. It's just they're afraid to tip his following. I guess that's who they want his following to follow them.
Right.
And it's.
I think Chris Christie is middle of the road, but because the far right don't like him, that's 70-something million votes that he will not get. A lot of them will not vote for Chris Christie. He's a better candidate than Trump and DeSantis.
Why don't?
Yeah, Christie's not in the race. What about Mike Pence? He's been there. He's been to the top of the mountain.
Too scared. He's not outspoken.
I don't even think so. I don't even think that. I think because he stood up and didn't become the fall guy for the January 6th riots, he got a target on his back.
He's not going to win because there's a lot of people, like you said, that don't like him because he didn't overturn the vote. Number two, he's also weak. Because you cannot be the president of the United States and be spineless. You can't. He's scared to say something negative about Trump. He's terrified to say something about Trump. And when he does say something negative, he turns right back around and say something positive. And he'll say something about the Democrats. So literally, he has no spine. He's too weak, and a lot of country don't like him because he's not likable. So they won't vote for him. They won't vote for him. They won't vote for DeSantis because he's not likable. Also, they will literally vote for Trump. Okay.
Let me present you guys with a name. How are we doing for time?
19.
Woo! Right on point. I want to talk about Ron DeSantis. That's going to take a minute.
He scares me.
I want to bring up a name before we get to Ron DeSantis, and the name is oh God. I'm going to tell you the name if I can get this logged in. The name is Vivek Ramaswamy. You guys heard that name?
Yep.
No.
He's on the Republican ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And I know nothing about this man, but see, that's how Obama came in. My brother-in-law Ted was like, we don't know nothing about this Obama guy. This Vivek Ramaswamy guy has gone from 6th to 3rd. He's jumped up to 3rd for the Republican poll.
He's the reason why he's going up because he spouts some of the same misinformation, lies, propaganda that Ron DeSantis and Trump, but he splits it. So, and plus he's well educated, he's very intelligent, he's rich, and he's likable because there's a base of people that like his rhetoric that deals with some of that what is that called? Propaganda, as well as what is that that group that spreads lies, misinformation, and it's so conspiracy riddled. What is it? QAnon.
QAnon.
So he spreads a lot of QAnon conspiracy stuff. So because he does a lot of conspiracy QAnon stuff, he does a lot of rhetoric that Trump does in DeSantis. So that's why he has a following, and he's moved from 6th to 3rd. He blames the what's going on with Trump and all these indictments. He blamed that, and the fact that we're supporting Ukraine. He believes we're supporting Ukraine because of Joe Biden's son, because they made a promise to him because of Joe Biden's son, because of the conflict with Joe Biden.
Joe Biden's son is not that important. Hunter Biden, he made some shady deals. My thing is, did Joe Biden know about him, or Joe didn't know about him?
Okay.
I feel like Joe did.
I feel like
Joe did.
Joe
but
did.
Hunter Biden they're looking for a fall guy.
Right.
He's not that important.
Right. Joe Biden knew that his son was doing this, but here's the thing. If your son is grown, you can't stop your son from doing something that they want to do if they're grown. You can, because Joe Biden said to his son, when he made those deals with Ukraine, do you know what you're doing? And his son said, and I quote, but Joe Biden said that, do you know what you're doing?
That could be taken two ways. That could be, do you know what you're doing? Or you're on your own if this fails or we get caught out there.
Which is what I agree.
There'll not be no blowback coming to me.
That's what I believe it was. Do you know what you're doing messing with these people? But what happened was, I think, and you guys are going to be upset about this or people will disagree, Obama should have stepped in and said, you cannot be the vice president if your son is dealing with shady people in Ukraine, because it's going to come back on you, because Obama saw this. That's why he separated himself. Obama saw this thing with Ukraine because Ukraine was very, very, very corrupt. They had corrupt people running that country.
Right, but we hadn't got there to the fighting of them in Russia yet.
No, but still, here's the thing.
So it was on the back burner. It wasn't on the front burner.
The problem was Joe Biden knew that Ukraine was corrupt. So they got rid of the guy who was one of the guys, he's an oligarch over Ukraine. Joe Biden said, we're not going to give you any more money until you get rid of this crooked guy. So when they got rid of the crooked guy, that's when Ukraine started getting good people in. The problem was his son was still dealing with Ukraine when this crooked guy was there. So Obama should have stepped in and said, no, you cannot be my vice president if you're dealing with these shady people in Ukraine. And your son is dealing with these shady people because it was going to come back. And sure enough, it came back to bite him. And so they're using, even though this man doesn't work for the government, but they're using his connections to his father, saying that all this is corrupt. And that's the problem we have. And I'm going to tell you right now, because of the doubt and the shadow that they have over Biden, it's going to siphon off some of his votes. That's the reason why the Republicans keep pushing this Hunter Biden thing, because they want to siphon off votes, as many votes as they can, because remember, he didn't lose by that many. Trump didn't lose by that many. So if I can siphon off votes, if I can get another Democrat to step in, if I can get another Republican to step in and siphon off enough votes, then they feel that they can steal the election.
I got a question for you, not to tip the bar. What do you think about Kamala Harris? Is she up for?
Haven't heard a
Done
thing about her
nothing,
in
and I love her.
years.
Joe Biden done nothing, and I love him. Getting the student loans, that's not enough.
Right.
Because everybody in the United States doesn't go to college. That's not enough. That's not enough for legacy, not enough to get revoked. But like I say, in the betting polls, Joe Biden is plus 175 to win the whole thing back.
Right.
But I'm worried because you can't just be in first. You know what I mean? That's not good enough. These ones is picking up steam, like your man and DeSantis, and that's deeply troubling.
So how do you feel about Biden's last comment about in Maui giving them $700 every resident for the disaster? He's getting a lot of backlash.
Them people had to jump in the ocean.
He's getting a lot of backlash for that.
700.
Because they saying $700 is not enough. You know, and that's a tourist country, tourist island. It's one of the number one homeless islands in the world.
You can't just give people $700. You just can't give them money.
Yeah,
There's other things that you have to do. You have to provide the infrastructure to rebuild the whole country, the whole island all over.
Because that island is wiped out.
Yep. Right. So you got to build the infrastructure
it's burned
first.
Down.
Once you build the infrastructure, internal infrastructure, continue to set up the government, then you can give them any other resources besides this money. Right now, there are land developers and real estate investors, millionaires, that are trying to buy the land from the people. So the governor of Hawaii, of that particular island, said, no, you cannot do that. I'm not going to change any zoning laws. I'm not going to let you take the housing from the people, which I 100% agree. Because unfortunately, you have people that are wealthy that will swoop in like vultures and try to take the land from the people. And so I stand with the governor that says, no, I'm not going to change any zoning laws. I'm not going to allow you to come in and take these people, because you're using people's tragedies for your own benefit to line your pockets. And I think that's a form of wickedness. That's evil to allow somebody to do that.
Good point. We got to move on. I could stay there all day. We got to move on. Let's talk about DeSantis for a minute.
Okay.
DeSantis told he's more to the right than Trump is. He's picking up steam. Like I said, Trump has 75 million hardcore followers.
Right.
That's a lot of.
The banner just came across that Trump is currently breaking news, leading all his rivals, GOP rivals.
Yeah, but I mean, how can you run for president and get it with RICO and all these indictments? I mean, he's not going to do any jail time, but how can you just keep ignoring that?
If anything, I think that's pissing off
I think
his
it's-
true diehard believers,
publicity.
Proud Boys.
He can win in popularity, but I don't
But how-
believe in a
like,
doubt
how
they're
can
going to
you-
let this man win. It's
Say
no
it,
way.
just say that was me. Just say I had all these indictments. There would be not a chance in hell that I could run.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
There's not another, and I'm going to say this in all
America.
seriousness, there's not another man on this planet, or another person on this planet that can get away with that, especially if he's a Democrat. Do you think for 1 minute that even Democrats would not vote for somebody with that many indictments? We
They
wouldn't
got
vote
Bill
for
Clinton out of there
Right,
quick.
right. They got Bill Clinton out. But, you know, going back to DeSantis, you said the thing about DeSantis. Here's my issue with DeSantis. He's very scary. I agree with you, Sarah. He's scary. But he has no policy whatsoever. Nothing for the country. But all he wants to do is pick fights with the LGBT community. He wants to pick fights with corporations
Disney.
if they don't, and Disney.
Disney.
And the military if they don't believe or line up with his ideology.
The laws
wanted to
that
pick
he's
fights with them.
enacting just in his area are taking away our basic human rights.
Right. So he's very scary. So imagine what's going on in Florida. They put that on the law
Yeah.
scale
That's what
across
I'm
America.
saying.
It's
That's
like-
what, that's what makes him a more dangerous opponent
He's
than
more
Trump.
dangerous than
Trump
Trump.
opened up that door for this to happen.
Right. He opened
Well,
up the
them
door,
two are
right.
going to go at each other's necks,
Right.
but
Yeah.
one of them's going to emerge
Right.
out of the top.
But let's say something happened to Trump. Let's say hypothetically. That's scary if something happens
because
to
you
Trump.
think you
Because
told me and you
now-
argued, you
That
said
could be
Trump
his
is going to win the
vice president,
2024
and
election.
DeSantis could be the vice president.
They're not going to work together.
They're not going to work
two alpha
together.
males.
They won't work
It's
together.
one
But
or
let's
the
say
other.
hypothetically something happened to Trump.
It's
Okay.
one or the other.
DeSantis
Then now
will get
DeSantis
it.
is going to take the lead.
Take all
He's
all
going to
his
take the lead.
followers,
He's going to take his followers. He's going to take his
I think
lead.
that's what's going to happen.
I think he's far more dangerous than Donald Trump is.
Absolutely, he's more
Okay,
to the
he's
right.
much more
Let me
dangerous.
tell you
He's
about
far
what-
extreme.
It's
He has
like-
no policy
We're
whatsoever.
going to be a communist country if he gets in.
Let me tell you a
yeah.
couple things about him. The governor that ran against him, he said that it was the black governor. He said that if this guy wins, he's going to monkey up the system.
Yeah, he did say that.
Okay, he said
Yeah.
that. He also said, well, slavery was good. He said because the blacks, he said they learned some valuable skills that they wouldn't have had. He said that. Also said workers of color could not handle being the focus of diversity discussions for more than 12. Just on and on and on.
Well,
You can't sing this song. You can't teach this in school. You can't teach that. Come on, man. He's changing policies. It's very. Hitler did the same. He didn't do the same. It's parallels to what Hitler did when he first started.
well, what
And
he's doing is the title
DeSantis
for
doing
it.
the same thing.
There's a title for it. It's called fascism. Okay? It's called fascism. When I can take away the history of a country, when I can take away the voice of a people, when I can restrict their votes, when I can change laws based upon my ideology and silence people, that's a form of fascism. They literally changed the law so that he can run for governor as well as run for president, because there was a law in Florida that you couldn't do that. So they changed the law just so that he could do that. He could run for governor and run for president at the same time. Prior to that, you couldn't do that. So he literally would change. So now what they're trying to do with Trump, let's go back to Trump, how this parallels him. They're trying to change the laws that allowing the governor to be able to get rid of all of Trump's state violations of law. Because see, when you can't
Yeah, I
pardon
did hear
yourself
something
if
about
it's,
that.
if it's a state crime.
So my
The
thing with
only
that,
reason why in Georgia you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
is because the governor previously was a racist.
Mm-hmm.
And because his racism was so racist, they had to change the law because he was so racist and corrupt. They changed the law to not allow the governor to pardon any people because of that past governor. Now they want to switch the law back and allow the governor to pardon Trump. So they're putting this right now. The Republicans right now in Georgia are trying to make this a thing. I don't think they're
he-
winning.
and let me tell you what else
that-
they're doing. What's my girl's name down in Atlanta? Stacey Abrams.
Stay
Yeah.
capable.
They're trying to redraw the lines so that if we come to a thing with the voting again, that these poor black districts will not be the final vote, the final say.
Right.
Because with Trump thing, remember how tight it was with Trump and Biden? Those poor districts in Atlanta that Georgia they forgot about. The Spanish districts in Nevada, outside of Vegas, they forgot about. Outside of Pennsylvania, those little districts, they all represented and showed out,
If he's
and that's what
indicted-
got him over the hump.
If he's convicted in Georgia, I believe he's not able to run for president. So that can last up to 6 months.
He's gonna drag it out.
That's exactly that's what he's always done. He's dragged stuff out litigation, and people just said forget it.
Right. People forget it, but what happens? They lose money. They don't have enough money to fight him.
But what I heard is Trump is not as rich as everybody thinks he is. They said he actually doesn't have any money now. They said now your brand, the Trump brand, is what's giving him his money.
Well,
I put my brand on this hotel, this.
Think about this for a minute. Only in America can you get people that are poor, middle class, and rich to donate money to a billionaire. Only in America can you get poor people, middle class, and rich people to donate to a billionaire. And they're paying money to his campaign, not just the campaign, for him to pay for his lawyer fees, legal fees. So people are donating money to pay for Donald Trump's legal fees right now as we speak. So every day he's out collecting multiple millions of dollars from people to pay for his lawyers. Rudy Giuliani just now went to Florida and asked him for permission. He asked for some money from Donald Trump. And Donald Trump told him no.
Yeah, because Trump doesn't need him anymore.
No,
Right.
He used them.
Right.
You know?
Right, he used them. Right, he used them.
So let's
Right.
we're at 32.
Okay.
We're gonna stick to 32.
All right.
Let's give me closing arguments. 2024 election.
2024 election. I think
You say it's going to Trump or whoever's in the public.
I say right now,
Yeah,
if
folks,
we
why?
don't get things to change right now, if something doesn't change right now, I think there's a great chance that Donald Trump can become president again, and that's scary for America. There's a chance. If we don't have independents and women swing back over to the left again like they did in 2020, there's a chance that a 4-time indicted Donald Trump can be president of the United States. And that is very, very, very scary for this country, because it's not if, but when we will lose our democracy and our Constitution.
2024 election.
I'll piggyback on that. I think it's scary hours. I don't even believe neither men are fit for the job, Biden or Trump. But also you have to look at the war. You know, you got to look at China, you got to look at Russia, Ukraine, you got to look at North Korea. We have a soldier over there, so it's a lot of political impact that this president, this term is going to be the most impactful for years to come. But I think it's going to be a sleeper. I don't even believe Trump or Biden's going to come about. I hopeful Governor Hogan or somebody else comes out of the windwork. But we just got to keep our faith alive and pray for the best. But it's hard to tell. I don't even know who's going to be the president, man. It's scary hours.
Phoenix 2024 election.
I think Trump's gonna get it. It's the lesser of two evils, I think. I don't like DeSantis, so I don't think Biden stands a chance.
Huh?
I don't think Biden stands a chance.
But see, here's
so what
the
does that do to the Democrat voters if Biden doesn't win? I mean, we leaving our hands in Donald Trump. We living our lives in him.
Which we did for 4 years. It was quiet. Just
He's-
like all the racists and those people that run to Trump were
He's
quiet
still holding
now.
a grudge
They're quiet.
over January 6th, so
But him and DeSantis are going to go head to head. Only one of them's going to come out of that. You got the spit bulls going for each other's throat.
Trump will win that. But last but not least, if you are a country that is based on morals, if you're a country that's based on inclusiveness, you cannot have a person who is immoral and a person who divides the country by race and by politics running the country, because the two cannot match. You cannot have somebody that's spiritually and morally depraved running the country, because history has proven that every person who has been spiritually and morally depraved running the country, that country came to an end. I can go through the history book and tell you every country that had a poor leader or a mad leader that, for example, Rome. Let's look at Rome. Rome was the greatest empire this world has ever known, but they had a madman leading them. A madman, and Rome came to an end. So when you have a madman leading the country, it's not if, but when that country will come to a demise.
Well, let me weigh in quickly. So that being said, that's how I feel about DeSantis. I feel DeSantis is on the borderline of madness.
he scares me.
He wants to make it an all-white country. It's not. I don't look at that. I look at, some people do. Some people look at they're black or they're white or they're Indian or so. I don't look at it that way. I look at the way I was raised. Good apples, bad apples. That's the way I look at things.
I agree.
DeSantis doesn't rock like that. And it's going to be a lot of changes, and he just like implements stuff. It just reminds me of Hitler. Hitler just kept implementing small stuff and got everything in place, and then he just shut it down.
DeSantis
like
just
DeSantis
wants
is
straight
going with
white people.
Right.
That's it.
But see, white people now, LGBTQ, they don't want that.
No.
They don't want this, that. They want you got to be, and the world is not set up that way. You know, like I know people, lesbian is not in the Bible. Yes, it's not. And yes, you're free to believe that. Yes, that's the way I was raised, but that's not the way it is. You have transgender. You have gay. You have
He's going to take away.
It's here now.
They've come so far. LGBTQ has come so far.
They're not going nowhere.
They're going to get pushed right back if DeSantis gets in.
But all the people that you're trying to diss, they're not going anywhere. Like, you can't suppress them anymore. You can't suppress all those things.
He's going to try.
I don't know. I'm just hopeful that the same people that came out that showed compassion what won the last election.
Yep.
It was the people that are compassionate
Right.
versus the people that weren't and just want things a certain way and shut the border down and no LGBTQ and no this and no they can't be here and none of this and we're not singing this in school. We're not teaching this in school. That's not compassion.
Last but not least, before I have to hit the road, America is the last stand, and I'm dead serious with this. America is the last stand for democracy in this world. America is the only country in this world that has the greatest democracy. If that democracy is taken away and lost, what happens? Because think about it, most of the world is not democratic. It's fascist, communism, and socialist. America is the only last few remaining democracy in the world besides England and so on and so forth. But America is the strongest. If you lose the strongest democracy, and that's taken away because you have people that are extreme right and fascist, what will that say to the rest of the world? What will happen?
Yeah.
It's not if. It will become a tumbling thing.
Absolutely.
It'll become a
It shows
domino
how weakness.
effect. It'll become a domino effect and affect other countries.
So I think that's something that Biden needs to work on. Biden needs to see an urgency with that or step down. I love him to death. I don't know if he can do it. I don't know if Kamala Harris can do it.
Right.
But that needs to be, we're at 32. We're probably past. We're going to keep where we are. I love you guys. This is the first episode. We're going hardcore this year. Shout out to my son, Pure. T-shirts and hats down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Get at me if you need it. Shout out anything.
Thanks for having us.
Till next time.
Come back.
Enigma Code DC, episode 1, new season of books. I'm your host, Ricky Santiago, Dax Rondo, Johnny Vegas, Maximilian, whatever. We're in the books. Phoenix, heal up, get well. We're back at it. See you next week.
All right.
Take care.